have trouble picking the passage for today. I like a story about raising up a mother-in-law because I have the greatest mother-in-law. She worries about staying too long when she visits, so she never overstays her welcome. She doesn't want to interfere with my husband Eric's and my personal life, so much so that I feel like I sometimes have to pressure her when I really do want her advice on something. And whenever she visits, she lets me do the cooking and she washes the dishes. So I get to do what I love without having to do the part of it that I hate. It also probably helps that she lives in Nevada on the other side of the country. Distance really does make your heart grow fonder and all that, but she is a wonderful mother-in-law. One commentator that I read this week on Working Preacher suggests that this passage is diminished, however, if we spend our preaching time making silly mother-in-law jokes, and particularly this Super Bowl Sunday, thinking about Jesus raising Mrs. Simon's wife, Mom, from her sickbed so that she can serve nachos during the Super Bowl. The truth is, I get her point more than many. Because this is a really devastating story, only made better by the fact that she's healed. I would be truly devastated to hear that Eric's mother was seriously ill. It would probably seem a lot like losing my own mother all over again. Now, some of you may have cared for your own parents and in-laws. Some of you might be caring for aging relatives right now, and frankly, if Vidalia is a typical Presbyterian church, some of you might be the mother-in-laws and parents-in-laws being cared for. Simon's mother-in-law would not have been a typical member of that household. Remember that in Jesus' day, women left their home to go live with their husband's family. And so while there might have been 1,000,001 reasons why Simon's wife's mother might have ended up there, we can try to imagine them. Perhaps her husband died and she had no son to take care of her, so her daughter's husband took her in. Perhaps she had a big fight with her son's wife and had to get out of the house. The fact is, anything's possible. She could have been sold as a slave as part of her daughter's dowry. Anything is possible, and we don't know why she is in Simon's household instead of her husband's household. But we can see that she learned to make herself useful in a home where no one had to agree to take care of her. So much so that when she came down with a fever, and this year in Georgia we know flu season, don't we? When she came down with a fever and was miraculously healed, her first thought was to get up and serve others. That's our first step in learning to heal the world today. To see ourselves in the figure of Simon's mother-in-law. We, too, have been lifted up out of our sickness of sin and death, raised to new life in a resurrection held by Jesus' hand. Is our very first instinct in the world to go out and serve others. Because that is what Simon's mother-in-law teaches us is needed. If this world around us that is so in need of healing can be whole again. But there's more to the story than just imagining ourselves as Simon's mother-in-law. It's always fun to imagine that we're Jesus. I have had a crazy busy week. Good things. Everything I had to do was good, but there was very little time off. So I resonated with a commentator who described what the scene must have been like when Jesus and his disciples returned to Simon and Andrew's house. Last week I preached on the story right before this. Jesus was in the synagogue in this town of Capernaum, Simon and Andrew's hometown. There he preached with authority, and he cast out a demon, and the people were amazed and astounded. You can imagine the huge crowd of people at the back of the sanctuary waiting to shake his hand and grab for themselves a little of that power that he had shown. So when he and his disciples finally retreated to Simon and Andrew's house, I imagine they were anxious for a little downtime. Grab a snack, maybe a little wine, kick back for the weekly preacher's nap on the couch in front of the game. In my house, we're a true preacher family, so our son Isaac has learned to fend for himself on our Sabbath afternoons. Because we do our best, but there's a lot of time when we're not there for him. The worst on those afternoons is the phone call. So-and-so is in the hospital. We have to go out again. But is that really the worst? Wouldn't a member of the family being sick with a fever be far worse? A dangerous fever, one that everyone was concerned about, that they had to tell Jesus immediately. That's the situation that faced Jesus as he returned to what should have been his place of rest. His relaxing evening turned topsy-turvy by an emergency. Well, he takes care of that. But what comes next? Not just one sick person in the household, but all of Capernaum comes to his doorstep looking for healing and for hope. And so Jesus gives up his afternoon, gives up his evening as he heals and he casts out demons. And he teaches all the people, those gathered at his door, those disciples huddled in wonder inside the house, those disciples who managed to step out and direct the traffic. He teaches them by their actions the next step in healing the world. Look around you for the illness, for the pain, for the suffering, for the oppression. If you look with the eyes of Jesus, you will not have to look far. It is all around you. Like it or not, Barbara Bruneau has it right when she says, neither we preachers nor our hearers, that's you folks, get to opt in or out of acting for the sake of the gospel. Situations come to us. Friends and neighbors, co-workers, people in line at the grocery store. The need for the gospel is all around us, calling us to step out of our comfort zones no matter how weary we may feel, how much we may crave a quiet evening with friends or an early morning time of prayer. As followers of Jesus, we do what is in front of us to do, because this is what the gospel calls us to do in order to be a part of God's healing of the world. It never seems to happen on our time frame. And if we open our eyes and look with the eyes and the heart of Jesus, we see that it is a constant calling to go out and heal the world. In fact, even in prayer time, Jesus is interrupted by the cares of the world pressing in. Many moms and dads out there will relate to being found by anxious disciples. Everyone is searching for you. What's your response when that happens to you? Mine is one of two things. So, Just give me a few more minutes. Tell them to wait. I'll be back soon. Can't a girl even have 5 minutes to herself in the bathroom? But in my better days, I have a different response. Sometimes I hear the call that everybody is searching for me, and I say, fine. And I return to the trouble that I know is always there. I bury myself in the illness and the demons I am all too familiar with and all too comfortable with. Our church often answers with this second response when the world says, everyone is looking for you. Our church, and I mean church, capital C, but maybe it's the church here at Vidalia as well. Our church, when it is at its best, is still enclaved in prayer with people it has always served, casting out the same old demons, fighting with one another over stories it never shares with the rest of the world out there. And that's when the church is at its best. At its worst, it is so self-involved that it never even bothers with the internal illnesses and demons. Heal the world, nothing. The church often never even works to heal itself. Jesus doesn't give either of my answers. What does Jesus do instead? Go back to the passage. Do you remember what he said when they said everyone is searching for you? He said, let us go on to the neighboring town so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do. And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. If we truly want to heal the world, we need to get out of our comfort zones, out of our buildings, out of our seats in front of the television, and we need to be proclaiming the message and casting out demons for people we haven't yet met. People we may never imagine working with. People who are so far beyond the way we are used to living and being that they may actually have something to teach us about healing and wholeness while we are at it. This is not a pipe dream. This is our commission as followers of Jesus Christ. As we heard in the anthem, we are being called. And we have the opportunity to offer to God, take my life. We say that the ways of God are mysterious and we may have no idea why we were chosen, but here we are, called anyway to be healers of the world in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. But to do it, we have to recognize that we are among the broken. We are a people who are both healed and in need of healing, rising from our own sick beds to tend to the needs of others who need care. But at the same time, opening our eyes to the hurts of the world that are all around us, gathering at our doorstep, gathering and asking for wholeness and life and power, even when it is inconvenient for us, even when it costs us a little something to do that healing, even when it costs us a lot. If we want to heal the world, may we have eyes and hearts to see the outcast and the hurting huddled outside our doors. May we see them, and may we also recognize our own gifts to bring wholeness and hope into their lives. And finally, though there is certainly pain and suffering here in this place, if we want to heal the world, we must find in our prayers the strength to move beyond these four walls, beyond where we feel comfortable and in control. We must feel God's compulsion to go throughout Galilee and beyond, throughout Vidalia and beyond, spreading the good news and casting out demons. My prayer for us today is that the God who sent us, you and I, to be healers, may be given strength in our journeys. May it be so. Amen.